Third down and 20.
What is the best buy for a 2022 Contenders first-round pick? In other words, like a late 2022 first. What you expect to be a late 2022 first, but with some upside in case they're not a good player. So I'm going to run through positions. I'll throw out some names here, and you guys tell me who you think the best buy is. There's a lot of names, so I don't know if I should actually throw them all out here. But like Derek Carr, Matt Ryan, Mac Jones, Kirk Cousins, Carson Wentz, Ryan Tannehill, Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones for quarterback. Are any of you guys buying that quarterback for
I love, if you're a contender and have a late first and need a QB, Ryan Tannehill.
So the caveat with Ryan Tannehill is you probably would have to give up slightly more. He's like the only one that you might have to give up slightly more, but not too much.
If it's not bad, I like it because I really like Tannehill as a fantasy quarterback, and he's not like old. Like I know, what is he, like 31?
In that range, yeah.
Somewhere,
I think he's 32. Yeah.
32? Okay, yeah. That's still, you're still going to get years of good production out of him. So Tannehill would be my favorite buy. And I was even considering that, not recently with my situation before, like it was something like before the Eagles traded back, I was thinking as a contender, what if the Eagles draft a QB? What do I do with my QB2? My go-to move as a contender was probably going to be trying to buy Tannehill. Because I think he's kind of like the cheapest really good QB you can get.
Do any of you guys feel strongly about the other QBs, or should we move on to potential running backs you could buy with the late first? All right, we'll go. Oh, go ahead, Frank.
Go ahead, Frank.
I was just gonna say I like Derek Carr. If there's someone in your league, this is definitely league dependent, but if Mac Jones is sitting there maybe early in the second round, and you can give up a contender first to pick him up as a possible quarterback, that might be all right. If he goes to San Francisco, I doubt that can happen. But let's just speak right now. Let's say, like JT thinks, San Francisco takes Justin Fields and Mac Jones falls. I think that he might be around that early second area more so than a late first. So you might be able to get that deal done. The other guy, I think the only other one is Carson Wentz. Just Carson Wentz is risky. But I think that the other thing is I'm not sure you can get him for a late first. It really depends on the owner. I think right now you probably have to give more than just a late first, but I honestly have no idea.
I agree with you on Mac Jones. If I was a contender and needed a QB too, like I really just didn't have anyone in that spot, I would trade a late first for Mac Jones.
Can you trade a late first for Carson Wentz?
I'd assume actually.
I think so.
That would be my move if I wanted a guy that potentially could last a little longer than the guys we've been mentioning outside of obviously Mac Jones.
Because you could strike gold with Carson Wentz. Like if he returns to even just 2019 form.
What if the owner wants a first and a second? Almost kind of like more on the Ryan Tannehill price tag.
So would that also be another late second?
You would assume so.
I'm probably not buying any of these guys at that price, a first and a second, even if it's late for both.
Not even Tannehill.
I think Tannehill I would. Wentz,
he's the only one
I
I'd
don't
consider.
know.
But even then.
Okay. Yeah, let's go on to the running backs, though.
All right, running backs, we've got Kareem Hunt, Austin Eckler. You might have to give up a little more for him. David Montgomery, Josh Jacobs, you also might have to give up a little more, although with Kenyon Drake signing, maybe you've got like a shaky owner. Maybe he doesn't listen to Frank. Ronald Jones, Chris Carson, A.J. Dillon, Melvin Gordon, Damien Harris. Any of these guys you're buying for a late first? I know which one Jake's going to tell you to buy.
My boy.
See, this is Jake trade propaganda. I can't believe we allowed this to happen.
This is literally not. Listen, first off, I love Kareem Hunt. I think he's worth more than that, honestly. I think he's worth probably a late first rounder this year rather than having to wait for a 2022 pick. But I just think he gets underrated just because people go, oh, Nick Chubb's there. Yeah, we understand that. Nick Chubb missed 4 games last year, and Kareem Hunt was running back 10. Like, okay, Nick Chubb plays those 4 games, he's running back 15 to 20. He's still a top 20 running back. It's hard to find running backs that are as consistent as Kareem Hunt. I just love him, and I think if you're looking for a guy that you need to plug in every week as your RB2, I don't think it's a bad move at all.
I'm probably not buying
it's
any
close.
of these guys, to be honest.
It's close. I would throw the added piece to get Eckler.
Okay, you're an Eckler believer for this year.
I love Eckler, and especially with Herbert. Every game he was healthy for last year, he went off. and I don't consider
That's
him
true.
really like a huge injury prone guy.
How much more do you think you'd have to give up on top of a contender first for Eckler?
The thing
That's
is,
contender
I wouldn't be-
2022 first.
Like, realistically, if he's on a rebuilding team, could you get him for that singular first? Is there a world where that happens?
I think there is. I think there is a world that happens.
I would probably ask for. I wouldn't ask for more on top of it. Maybe just try to like sneak out a third. But like if I'm buying him, I'd throw in the third at that point.
You might have to give up like a late second, be honest. But like, in my opinion, I think the Chargers. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually went out and got another running back. I mean, I know they just got Josh Kelly, but they're a team that they've got a different coaching staff now. Austin Eckler is kind of like a niche running back. Josh Kelly's shown he can't really do a whole lot. So sorry, Josh Kelly. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go out and get their guy to try and just kind of more cement their offense, which would hurt Eckler's value, and probably honestly bring it down more to that late first, maybe even early second.
The one last guy I want to talk about, and I'm not sure he's worth the late first, but I think it's worthy of discussion, is Damien Harris. Is it a potential buy low for? It's risky. It's definitely a risky move, and the Patriots are hard to trust. But he was pretty damn good last year.
Damien Harris is one of those guys where I love his talent, and if I knew he would be the starter as he should be on most normal teams in that situation, I would. But because it's the Patriots, I have zero trust in them at the running back position. Also, by the way, to people I would buy Josh Jacobs for that 2022 late first. I just don't think any Josh Jacobs owner is accepting that.
Correct.
Yeah, you'd have to give up more, in my opinion.
I was gonna say
at that price,
no
I'm not
one's
really
accepting
giving up
that.
more. But back on Damien Harris, with what Lounis said, I do think that makes him a good buy because people are kind of worried about the Patriots situation. They're always talking about Patriots running backs. That being said, as a Patriots fan, I still don't want to touch him because I'm still worried about that
I think
situation.
he's really talented. I think
Yeah.
if they gave him the chance, he would be really productive.
I want to believe,
I can't trust it.
Yeah, I want to believe, but I just know I'll get hurt if I do.
So if you're a contender, like what, and you wanted Damien Harris, what are you trying to do? Are you just going to try and swap players instead of a pick? Like
A good
is
second.
he just
yeah,
kind of one of those
have
kinds
him
of
as a
guys?
throw-in for he doesn't like a. I'm not really a proponent of a 2-for-1 trade, but like if I could get two solid prospects for one prospect that I'm like shakier on, I'm trying to think of someone like just top of my head, but like
Maybe like a Rager.
I was about to say like a Ruggs.
Rager's like, so are you saying a Rager plus? Where?
Yeah, like
where,
a Rager plus like a second or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a little better, I think. But I was talking more of like maybe I give up Terry McLaurin for Damien Harris plus.
Oh, okay.
Plus, I don't even know what the value is at that point.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
yeah.
Like you sell into Damien Harris.
Yeah. Like I'm recouping value that I'm afraid I might lose. Not that I'm really shaky on Terry McLaurin. He's
You
kind of a bad
thought
example,
Damien
but
Harris is worth Rager in a second?
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't. give
I
up
was just
Rager.
starting to throw crap out.
I was just trying to
I was
understand.
I was just throwing stuff out there.
If you could give me like a pick 108 this year plus Damien Harris and I'm a Terry McLaurin owner, I'd probably deeply consider that.
I think I would accept that.
Speaking of receivers, we
We can
go
move
into
on.
them.
All right. So this is the one that I was the most interested in. I've got a very specific guy in here that I'm buying for the late first. For that price exactly. We've got Tyler Boyd, Cooper Kupp, Debo Samuel, Deontay Johnson, which you might have to give up more for probably. Robert Woods, Laviska Shenault also might have to give up a little more for. Same with Jerry Jeudy and Juju. Plus there's like some other players like Rondale Moore for rookies, and then you've got Lockett, Thielen, Curtis Samuel. There's one specific guy I've got in here that I want to buy, so I'll just jump off and say it. I'm buying Debo Samuel for the late first. If I could get Debo Samuel for that first, I just think, people are kind of overhyped the Liz Frank injury, that foot injury, which did hold him back, and we were saying last year probably would hold him back for the beginning, but he did come back. He looked well, like he played well. There's going to be concerns that he's the third player in the offense of Kittle, Ayuk, and Debo, but personally, I think Debo's over Ayuk in that depth chart. I just think he could do more than Ayuk. Ayuk's kind of, they're both similar in what their route tree stuff is. The only thing I'll say though is Debo literally had a negative depth of target last year, average depth of target, which means they're just getting the ball into his hands, and he can do whatever behind the line. He's just that kind of playmaker. So Debo, I think, is the one that I'm buying at this price.
I would buy Debo, but there are a couple guys I like more. Actually, Debo's close for me.
Can you list the wide receivers again, real quick?
Okay, so we had on here Tyler Boyd, Cooper Kupp, Debo, Deontay Johnson, Robert Woods, Shenault, Judy. You'd have to give more. Juju. Some rookies like Rondale Moore, Lockett, Thielen, Curtis Samuel. So guys I like. I like Curtis Samuel a lot in Washington for a late first next year. He's still only, like, I think, 24. I like Deontay Johnson, but it would depend how much more. So how much more do you think it would take for Deontay Johnson?
Well, I think that's the weird thing with these receivers is that to any owner, like there might be owners that would be loving to sell Cooper Kupp for a late first, and then other owners that'd be like, dude, Cooper Kupp for a late first, no way. Same thing with like Tyler Boyd, like.
Dude, Tyler Lockett's on there. I would love to trade Tyler Lockett for a late first. I'm not getting that.
Yeah, I was just throwing names on here because Tyler Boyd you might not be able to get for a late first, but he's around there. I mean, you can't really be asking much more for Tyler Boyd than a late first. Like, okay, yeah, a first and a second maybe, but it's not like you're terribly far away.
I don't think you're going to get the late first and a second for Tyler Boyd, especially.
I don't think you're getting the late first for Tyler Boyd.
It's close in that it's a 2022 contender first, so it's not even this year.
I think
first.
he's worth just that late first. He's right there. Same thing with Cooper Kupp. If you're a rebuilding team or a team that's looking to rebuild and you're selling Cooper Kupp, you're trying to sell him for that late first.
Cooper Kupp I would buy for that late first.
I think Cooper Kupp is a great buy for a first, especially with Matt Stafford now there. He's still a guy who gets a ton of targets. He gets open. Cooper Kupp is a guy I'm looking to buy. Jerry Jeudy is a guy that I still really like. I think the problem with Jeudy is that because you have owners that took him really highly in the draft, they're just not going to want to sell him.
That's why I didn't bring him up.
So, yeah, the receivers are definitely interesting, and if you're a team that needs a receiver and has a first to shell out for one, I think you're actually in a really good spot right now with some of the guys that you can pick up. Tight ends, on the other hand, are really weird.
Really weird.
So, I put on the list Mark Andrews, which you'd probably have to give more. Noah Fant, which I have no idea. Like, you have guys that love Fant that hate him. Same thing with Dallas Goedert. And then you kind of have the second-tier guys, Mike Gesicki, Cole Kmet, Jonnu Smith, and anyone else that's like you probably wouldn't want to offer a late first for, but you definitely could get him if you wanted to. So, any of these guys that if you really needed a tight end, you'd be looking to shell out the first for?
I think I'd do it for Goddard.
I don't think I'd be, other than Andrews, which I know you'd probably have to give up more, I don't think I'm really spending that price. To give you some background, I've been trying to trade for Noah Fant in our league, but to just give up 111 straight up, which I'm considering is pretty similar in value with next 2022's late first.
It's still more though.
It's just I'm not willing to give up that kind of price. Maybe if it was the 2022 first, I might do it. But I was trying to do kind of like a slight value change here and there to make it work, but it's just not happening, and I'm not willing to give up that price just yet. But it's close. Those are the only real guys.
Could if you offered a 2022 first, are you getting Goddard?
That's I think the real question. Would they give him up? But I would offer that because I think, especially with the Eagles trading back to 12, where they're out of the running for Chase and Pitts, I think there's a decent chance Goddard leads the Eagles in catches like the next 2 years. So he may not have the most yard, but I think he's just going to get a ton of catches, and Ertz is going to be out of there too. So that's part of why I say Goddard, like him when he's healthy.
Yeah, tight end is a tricky spot. So I think it's an interesting discussion that we'll probably have in the